Yeah. So we welcome the COA. Could you read into the record the presence of everyone here?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Lacson, Your Honors. The Senate Committee on Finance would like to acknowledge the presence of its distinguished guests, namely Chairperson Michael Aguinaldo, Commissioner Isabel Ahito, Commissioner Jose Fabia, Assistant Commissioner Elizabeth Sosa, Assistant Commissioner Winnie Rose Encaliado, Assistant Commissioner Rizalina Mutia, Assistant Commissioner Carmela Perez, Assistant Commissioner Manolo C., Assistant Commissioner Alexander Villano. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you proceed with your budget, I just have two issues I will bring out, which is really, which is part of the mandate of COA. First, I just finished a 3-hour-and-a-half and still suspended hearing of the DNR. Could I request COA to do what kind of audit? A performance audit, is that what you call it, of the National Greening Program, for which the government has allocated more than 45 billion since 2011, because I have not heard a single soul to tell me that in this past 6 years, galing ng reforestation, talagang nag-improve. Because they claim it's not a reforestation program, that it is a poverty alleviation program. I haven't heard a single family say, masensong buhay namin mula sa kahirapan ay kumikita na kami. Although, to be fair, I saw one LGU in Pidig, Ilocos Norte na maganda, even drank their coffee, bigyan ni Sexima to coffee production. But 45 billion, then they have another 7 billion for 2018. May I not just please audit in terms of numbers, but they have 380,000, for example, hectares planted, growing, survival rate, 3 years. So, since 2011, ilan yung taon-taon represent sa amin, tapos papakita ng isa o dalawang picture, yun ba ang buong bansa na? Hindi po ako COA, maaring hingin, I don't know if you actually do it, could you just furnish my office with the most updated and complete, I don't want to see just numbers, but actual impact. I don't know what kind of chair, Mike, what kind of audit am I asking for? A performance audit. Yes. Do you do, what do you call the numbers audit? Financial audit. You do both financial and performance audit, or just? Both. Okay. Have you audited the National Greening Program from 2011 to 2016? Do we have that already?
I think we have a financial audit.
A performance
I'm not so
audit.
sure if they've already done a performance audit as well.
Yes.
But we'll
I've actually been
that.
asking for this every year, even before your turn, since we've been providing billions of pesos into this. Not that I suspect anything, I just want to see the positive impact on our environment and on our lives. Dito po kayo, ma'am. Yes, we are actually waiting for you. Yes, you may sit here, ma'am. We recognize Ombudswoman Conchita Carpo Morales. Nauna na po kami sa COA. Yes. Yes, could we ask everyone from Ombudsman to take their places, please? Nandiyan na pala kayo. Deputy Ombudsman Mosquera, you were, pinag-usapan kayo kanina lengthily, kasi 3 hours and a half po, mula 9 hanggang 12:40, actually kakatapos lang ng hearing ko sa DNR, hindi natapos. And both of you, when I say you, your institutions were discussed, because what we need is a performance audit of the National Greening Program of more than 45 billion in the past 6 years. And second, we also talked about the non-compliant local governments on ESWM RA 9003 and the more than 50 that you had filed cases on. Yes. May we request the COMSEC to read into the record the presence of everyone in the Ombudsman office. Thank you. Okay. And we recognize Senator Ping Lacson and Senator Minority Leader Frank Trilon. Yes. Pakibasa on the record, please.
The Senate Committee on Finance would like to acknowledge the presence of its distinguished guests, namely Ombudswoman Conchita Carpio Morales, Overall Deputy Ombudsman Melchor Arthur Carandang, Deputy Ombudsman Gerard Mosquera, Deputy Ombudsman Paul Elmer Clemente, Deputy Ombudsman Rodolfo Eman, Deputy Ombudsman Cyril Ramos, Special Prosecutor Edilberto Sandoval, Assistant Ombudsman Mayor Ryan Layson.
Thank you. Ma'am, before you arrived, I was requesting COA to provide us not just with a financial audit, but also a performance audit of the National Greening Program, up to the extent that you have, if you've started the performance audit, just to help us. I said there were two things. I forget the other one. It escapes my mind. I'll get back to that later on. Then you can proceed with your budget.
Good
Can
morning.
I request it to give it to us before the September 14 second hearing of DNR, please? NGP. Thank you. Yes, the second thing I was going to ask was, the National Solid Waste Commission claims that COA bars them from assisting local governments in terms of their material recovery facility capital outlay and landfill. So the LGUs don't implement RA 9003, diba, Deputy Gerard, parang yun ang ating palagi, wala kaming pera eh, sinasabi nila. So can I just have a legal opinion under my law? I can't recall if I have that provision that the National Solid Waste Commission prohibits the assistance of the national government to local government for the construction of an MRF or to close the open dumps and to create environmental sanitary landfills. Just because yun palagi daw makukuha daw sila. Yun ang sabi ng commission. And third, can you kindly work with the DBM's government procurement program? Because, again, most agencies, and that's our frustration, don't use their budget, especially now with a 12-month cycle. They oversight either procurement board, procurement law, and COA. They're so scared to implement the projects, even if and the funds take so long to be downloaded, makukuha daw sila. Puro na lang ganun. So, it's always passing the buck. Government procurement system, makukuha sila, and then the agencies. There was one time, was it Secretary Ubial and Sec Jokno was here with the government procurement head, and it was the purchase of some very important medicines, and there was a delay for 2 weeks because they said hindi daw maaring gawin sa procurement. Again, I don't recall the issues, but that's a perennial issue. Makukuha. Takot lahat makuha, kaya ang bagal ng procurement. According to Sec Jokno, the law is his baby, no? You cannot, he says it's not the law, it's the implementers. If it's the implementers, is it the local governments? Is it the national agencies? Where lies the challenges? Pwede ba natin i-unbundle yung challenges, tanggalin yung lukot? Kasi by August, hindi pa rin i-implement yung ating projects downloaded from DBM, but still unobligated up to the 3rd quarter of the year. An example is the 800 million of DNR just today on their, I don't recall, ESWM, composer shredders, nag-failed bidding, and every agency who faces us, that's always the issue. Takot sila makuha dahil takot na ombudsman, dahil ang procurement law daw ay dapat i-amend. Sabi ni Secretary Jokno, hindi kailangan i-amend, nasa tao daw yun. So we are baffled. Where is the challenge? How do we solve it? Perhaps, Chair Mike, I just addressed the issue to you. Can you help us solve it, please? Just to make the bureaucracy work faster and better in line with COA rules and regulations. Thank you. Then you can proceed with your budget, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. I think you've been furnished with a copy of our budget proposal. So, for brevity purposes, maybe we can jump to slide number 16, which focuses already on the budget proposal and the national expenditure program submitted by the DBM. Wala bang ano? Ay, mag-open. Planning pa rin talaga ang problema.
Usapan ko lang siya.
No, but we work naman talaga with them. We're working with them.
Planning talaga. Emphasize niya.
And it's slowly coming out. Okay. Okay, I think slide 16 is already flashed on the board. If you look at the table, our original budget proposal for personal services amounted to 12 billion. However, this figure actually came from DBM themselves. They corrected it, and the actual figure, according to DBM, is 10.4 billion. So we don't have any issue with that, since they're the ones that came up with the initial computation in the first place. Our MOE, there's again a decrease. We normally get about 33% chopped off. However, this time they gave us a little more. This is because of the provincial satellite offices that we've established. It goes with the territory that when you put up your own building, you now have to pay for the expenses of the building. And DBM has actually provided us with a budget for expenses. When I say expenses, we're talking about electricity, security, phone services, and the like. So we no longer get this from the local government units. They no longer fund us for at least those areas that we have a provincial office. In terms of capital outlay, again, we're usually, a huge chunk is usually removed. Fortunately for this year, they decided to give us 200 million to continue our provincial satellite office building. As of today, we have 27 satellite offices that have been completed and are operational. We have 12 that are ongoing, about half of which might be completed within the year. And we have 10 in the works, meaning, when I say in the works, meaning there's already been a donation of either the land or the use of rock over the property. And so we're just working on the funding. Now, if we move over to slide 17, so how does the net compare to our budget for 2017? Basically, as a whole, we have a 10.5% increase, the bulk of which, again, is because of personal services. And this is because they already input the SSL tranches in the amount. And so if we go to slide 18 to compare budget proposal with the GAA or NEP through the years, last year we actually had an increase, which is the first time in quite some time. This year there's a bit of a decrease, but it's not 16.26%. As I mentioned before, there was about 2 billion that was placed in our personal services that was really an error on the part of DBM. So when we adjusted the figures, it's only a I think a 4% decrease from our budget proposal. So with that, this is our budget. Of course, there are other initiatives we'd like to fund, but we also realize the difficulties of managing the budget. So, but while we're happy with this, of course, we would want a little more for some of our other initiatives. But we understand, of course, the difficulty in having to source the funds from other departments. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you, Chair Mike. Senator Lacson, you arrived first. So
Thank you, Chairman Mike. Actually, ang tanong ko po sa COA sa Ombudsman, halos pareho lamang dahil pareho rin yung mga issues. Anyway, the bulk of your budget talagang pupunta sa PS, mga 93%. No? And 4.3%, yun yung MOE, and capital outlay, 2.43%. My question is, since your authorized fill-up, nasa mga 14,102, no? And this has been going on since 2015, 2016, 2017. But it seems that the fill-up of these positions, medyo maliliit. Parang ang increase nyo lang, nasa mga na-fill up nyo lang 246 positions. So, well, that should answer my first question actually, na bakit binawasan ng DBM yung your proposed appropriations, binawasan ng mga 2.5 billion hindi ba? Dahil from 13.538 billion, ito yung sa budget call. And then yung net, under the net, naging 11.188 billion. So nabawas ng 2.35 billion. Now, my question is, ano yung programs that are adversely affected by your shortage in personnel? And why would you not hire additional personnel? Dahil ang fill-up nyo, nasa mga 58% lang eh. When you have the appropriations, you have the funds to do the hiring. So, ano yung mga programang adversely affected by shortage of personnel?
There's quite a number, sir. One of the immediate problems really, especially sa mga probinsya po, there's some provinces na yung supervising auditor handles 5 or 6 municipalities. Medyo na-overwhelmed talaga sila. So you can expect either the person ends up having health problems or the quality of the work may suffer also as a result. There are also some initiatives na hindi namin ma-pursue because of the lack of personnel. As I think I mentioned the previous year, we effectively audit about anywhere from 15 to 18,000 agencies a year. No? That includes barangays. So, medyo nasuspect to thin yung iba. Yung iba naman, might have it a little easier throughout the year dahil hindi sila burdened by that. We try to address that now by giving more authority to our regional directors over our personnel, no? So that kahit na naka-assign ka sa national or corporate, when it comes to barangay audit season, pwede rin silang tumulong doon, no? That's one way of doing it. As for yung hiring po, we've really been aggressively hiring. Our problem is we've also been losing a lot of people to retirement. I think nabanggit ko previously na ang average age sa COA po is 54. So we actually have an aging workforce.
Aging workforce?
Yes. An aging but hardworking and young at heart workforce. So to give an example, last year, roughly we were able to hire about 1,000 people. No? A lot of them accountants, meron lawyers, meron other disciplines. The problem is I think about 450 retired. So if you look at it, ang net lang nun, mga 100 lang.
146
Yun. What we're doing also now is we're in the midst of a reorganization of our plantilla, basically because of authority Congress had given us. No? We're reorganizing right now because, as Senator Legarde mentioned, performance audit, that's something we want to be able to do more of because we think it gives a greater service, because this way we can assess how effective programs have been. No? Kaya lang we have to build up people for that. And to build that up, we need to hire other disciplines. We need a financial analyst. We need a statistician. If we can get our hands on actuary, maganda sana. Otherwise, we just have to outsource them. So we're about done with that. And once that's done, we'll really do an aggressive hiring campaign. As of now, may mga magka-campus tour na po. So I think it came up in the papers a week ago na sinabi na need a job ko is hiring. We want to fill a lot of these positions. But again, we also make sure that those that we hire are qualified and competent for the work that they do. Part of what we're doing rin po is yung mga ibang job order namin, we're trying to slot them in already to positions para mabawasan na yung endo sa gobyerno, kumbaga.
So it's not as if there's a dearth of competent people to hire. Kasi ang laki, 14,102 authorized. Ano? In the 2018 net, yung reported fill-up ng position sa 2016, of course, BSF ang ano nito 8,156. So why can't you even approximate yung 14,102. Say, makahire man lang kayo ng additional para umabot man lang ng mga 11,000, 12,000. Kasi ang layo eh. From 14,000 yung authorized positions, 8,146. Of course, kasama yung attrition, ano? But ang authorized level nyo pa rin, under the 2018, ganun pa rin eh, 14,102. So, what seems to be, ano ba yung mga challenges, mga issues involved in hiring new plantilla positions or new positions?
Actually, in terms of hiring, we're quite competitive with the private sector. No? Our starting rate for CPAs is, I think, higher than SGV. So, pretty good naman ang hiring namin sa CPAs. However, since we're doing the reorg, we're looking at other disciplines. One of our difficulties is hiring and retaining lawyers. Kasi, I guess the impression is COA is for accountants. Yet, we actually need a lot of legal minds as well dahil ang mga disallowance po are always legal issues. So, dapat may lawyers doon. Our problem is the hiring because of the perception perhaps, although yung campus tour namin includes some law schools as well. And yung retention, because I guess for some lawyers, their dream is eventually to enter the judiciary and COA is not really seen as a stepping stone towards that. No? Normally, ang umaalis sa amin, they end up going to DOJ, PAO, and Ombudsman sometimes, because their idea is they want to be in the judiciary. So it's also partly on us also. We really need to be more aggressive and focused on our recruitment, especially po sa provinces. Sa Metro Manila, hindi ho problema. But when we go to some areas, for example, Region 12, we only have one lawyer. Siya pa yung regional director. So it's difficult, no, to try and find people for these positions.
So again, regarding numbers, how many will you be able to hire if you utilize the whole amount for your PS? Kasi ang unutilized ninyo, malaki rin eh. You're averaging 693 million per year since 2012, 2012 hanggang 2016. Yun ang average yearly unutilized, either unobligated or unreleased ng DBM. So, ilan yung ma-hire nyo kung sakaling ma-approximate yung 14,102?
To get to that amount, it's about 6,000. I think we need to hire about, close to 6,000 personnel of varying positions. So that may change though, kasi within the year ma-approve na yung reorganization namin. So there'll be a change in the numbers. But the PS amount won't change, no? Yun pa rin. But there'll just be a reconfiguration. So baka mabawasan ng konti yung number of CPA positions that are vacant, no? And madagdagan yung other disciplines like lawyers, engineers, financial analysts, and the like. Pero may program po kami where I'm really hoping before I exit in 4 years, medyo nasa 11,000-12,000 na kami. Kasi yun rin, it's not just a question of hiring but trying to make sure you hire the right people rin for the job.
Thank you. Para hindi na ulitin, yun din ang tanong ko sa Ombudsman, Madam Chair. Except the numbers, magbabari lang. Pero yun din po, yung unused appropriations, yung unutilized for the past 5 or 6 years, maliit lang sa inyo mga 270 million a year. Yan ang average. And then, hiring of personnel, ganun din, hindi na fully utilize yung pondo to hire personnel. So, what seems to be the problem, ma'am?
You recognize Ombudswoman Conchita Morales, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Senator. You see, there are some 1,300 something positions which are pending restructuring, and it's before the Department of Budget and Management. And these positions which are affected would restrain us from filling up some positions. But in the interim, there is a lot of turnover of employees and officials. They go to the justice or prosecution service and they go to the judiciary. The attraction there is because of the retirement package, and that brings us to our ardent request for legislator to also consider giving us retirement package that would probably incentivize people to stay put in the office of the Ombudsman, even if they believe that their transfer to the judiciary would be attractive, but they still believe that a retirement package would be one of the solutions for the prevention of fast turnover. In Visayas alone, DO Visayas, I think how many lawyers have been within a period of how many months?
For this year alone, we lost 5 lawyers to the judiciary. Your Honor. For last year, another around 4 to 5 lawyers also.
So ma'am, your current unfilled position, 1,016,
Yes, Your Honor.
following your authorized fill-up, ano?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, pero yun nga, unutilized naman yung budget nyo sa PS. So, yun. Ano mga issues involved? Sabi ng COA, hindi naman masyadong problema doon mag-hire ng competent people. But sa Ombudsman,
We'd rather have 10 lawyers than 100 if the 90 are corrupt or incompetent or both, Your Honor. So we have very strict hiring standards, but as I said, this is also affected by the exodus of lawyers.
But why did DBM slash your budget by 44%? Meron ba kayong issue with this administration?
Maybe that is better addressed to Secretary Jokno.
Tama po yun, 44%.
Yes, that's right, Your Honor, because we asked for
Almost 50%.
point something billion, but they reduced it to 2.88 something.
We're still deliberating on the budget, so probably with the help of the Senate, we can restore some, depending on your needs, yung necessity ng ma-restore yung ibang budget ninyo. I think you can approach the chair kung marami kami mapagkukunan, ma'am. Maniwala kayo.
Thank you so much. Our most immediate need now is the construction building cost for an annex building, because we need about 130 million.
Kindly submit your position paper. I think 130 million is easy if we will just explore, yung alam niyo na kung saan pwede manggaling yun.
Is this the 130 million of your central office?
Yes, that's
building here
an
in
annex
Quezon City.
central
The
office,
annex.
Your Honor.
Did we not
It's a
provide
multi-purpose building. This is on top of the
for
annex.
this year? I thought there's a provision for a building within the COA or the Ombudsman grounds
That's
this year.
for Visayas?
You're referring the annex building of Visayas?
No,
or the
annex
Quezon-
building of the Ombudsman proper.
in Quezon City?
In Quezon City.
And there's no
Okay.
provision in 2017? I think what we had was Visayas. I'm referring to the
Visayas.
Cebu office.
And before that, we had the Mindanao building, which
yung
is
sa Davao nun, and then
yes,
Visayas. And we never provided capital outlay for the
For-
Quezon City office?
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
this was in your Tier 2 recommendation?
2018.
In your net Tier 2, which was slashed by DBM. That is restored as of now.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
It's restored. Hindi,
Thank you,
because
Your Honor.
I recall,
Thank you, Your Honor. I know you don't change your mind, so
yes.
thank you.
Hindi, kasi nagtataka lang ako. I've been sitting, I think 4 years na akong chair ng budget nyo. Alam kong meron tayong Davao kasi kinukwento nyo, doon kayo sa taas ba ng hardware at tindahan, nag-opisina.
That's
I
right, Your
remember
Honor.
that you set up 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes,
pa.
that's right.
So that's why we allocated for capital outlay for your office in Davao. And then kinuwento nyo yung nasunog yung sa, nasunog o nabaha yung sa Cebu. Kaya nagbigay tayo capital outlay sa Cebu. All the while, I thought that we had allocated also for your Manila office or Quezon City office. So you're saying, are you sure wala tayong capital outlay at all? Wala? And that was not granted for your NEP of 2018. So sige, sagot ni Senator Lacson, paghanapin.
Ako yung tagahanap nila.
Siya tagahanap.
And I assure you, there's tens of billions of pesos lingering somewhere, which we can use to fund your 130 million.
Thank you.
Kung maaari po, hingi lang kami ng isang pahina lang, soft and hard copy, just to show that this was is not a figment of our creation here, that it was a Tier 2 request to DBM, just so that there's basis when we do our amendment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
We also
Chairman
need
Mike,
50
baka ikaw
million.
rin.
We also need 50 million, Your Honor, for the rollout of our e-SALN. And we also need 50 million pesos for the rollout
Information.
of our, SALN.
Opo.
Yes.
E-SALN meaning electronic filing
Yes.
of the SALN.
Yes, it will
right
be
now kasi
easier.
it's hard copy.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
it will be easier to catch the crooks.
So, pag yan po ang e-SALN, hindi na kailangan mag-submit ng hard copy sa mga institutions, sa LGUs or dito sa atin. Ganun ba yun? I don't understand. Or is it computerization of the SALN? Is it just submission e-SALN?
Online filing, Your Honor.
Online filing.
Right.
Yes. Why will it be, of course, it's going to be more efficient because it's e already.
So just by the mere touch, you can readily see the SALN of a particular employee.
Yes.
Whereas if you rely on the hard copy,
Right now, is it not on the website? I think it's readily available, no?
yes, Your Honor.
It's not been a program. It's the first time that you're proposing that
Yes, Your
program.
Honor.
Okay. So
It
it's
was
one.
middle of last year. We already rolled it out, pilot program.
I see. When you
Through
pilot,
World Bank.
I see. When you piloted the program, did you have a website for your pilot areas where you have that? How did you roll it out, ma'am?
Yeah. The Oramos?
When you said you piloted, there were certain agencies
Yes.
where you implemented the e-SALN program.
The Oramos?
Your Honor, we have started piloting of the e-SALN by way of training filers, prospective filers coming from 4 different agencies. But it turned out that there were additional number of agencies who volunteered to be trained. Actually, it covered 10 national government agencies and 9 local government as of June 30, 2017. And next, this coming month, DNR has also expressed their intention that they be covered by the pilot testing. So after the pilot testing and after making the final modification, particularly on certain procedural guidelines, then there will be a 5-year roadmap for the full implementation of this e-SALN in the entire bureaucracy. That would include the local government academies, GOCCs, and the national government agencies.
May I know right now, GOCCs and local governments, they comply with the SALN law?
Yes, but manually.
And everyone is manual now?
Yes.
Except for the pilot institutions that you mentioned?
Yes, Your Honor.
And right now, it is funded by the World Bank?
Yes, Your Honor.
Magkano po yung funding for your pilot? How much was allocated for this pilot institutions?
I'm not really, Director Baldago, I think, is the one who handling the Project Management Bureau.
6 million yun po. So, 50 million will be needed for rolling out for the whole entire bureaucracy na.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kasama na po ang GOCCs at ang mga lokal na pamahalaan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Opo, ma'am.
So what do my 2 colleagues say? Will that be an amendment?
The minority leader is here. Siya yung mahilig mag-interpolate. And I assume that he's always been very supportive of the Ombudsman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I don't think we'll have any problem when we debate on this.
So do we say that there is that amendment for the annex building of 130 and the 50 e-SALN program for which there is already a pilot funded by the World Bank?
Madam Chairperson, you can even incorporate it in your committee report. As a
Correct.
committee amendment. So we'll not
That's the reason why I'm asking my colleagues, because the minority is represented here, so that I can make it a committee amendment.
We also need 50 million for our whistleblowers account refund.
Ano po yun?
Senator Lexon said there are several billions lying around.
How are you supposed to...
Why waste government funds elsewhere when you can help the Ombudsman?
I suggestion, ma'am, consolidate all your
We will do
programs na hindi napondohan, and then let's see. But as of now, the chair and the 2 gentlemen over here were committed to support the capital outlay of 130, and the 50 million for the ISALEN.
Thank you, Your Honor.
But
We
if
will
you
do
have
that.
additional appropriations needed, then you can just submit and we'll find out.
Thank you, Your
Kasi
Honor.
pag pinayagan yung another 50, baka may nakasunod pang another 50.
Ad infinitum. So, Chair Mike and Ombudswoman Morales will provide our office, the Finance Committee, with your Tier 2, and perhaps just put a justification of the why is it essential. Yun lang po. Senator Drilon, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm particularly attracted by the statement of the Ombudsman that the reason why they cannot retain lawyers, and also Chairperson Aguinaldo, is the matter of, among others, the retirement package. That is the disparity in the retirement package. And I'm saying this out of personal experience. When I was Secretary of Justice and Ombudsman Morales was there, we lose the power lawyers to the National Prosecution Service. We lose the prosecutors in the National Prosecution Service to the judiciary. And it's all because of retirement. When you reach a certain point in your career, and I'm not talking about being at 60, but pagdating mo mga 40, naghahanap ka na tumitingin ka na ng retirement eh. And that is why I confirm the statement of Ombudsman Morales, that indeed this is one of the reasons why we cannot keep lawyers in these agencies. So my first question is, what is the difference today between the retirement of lawyers in the Ombudsman and in the COA compared, let's say, to what, the judiciary or the National Prosecution Service? Can you tell us for the record? What's
In
the
our
difference?
case, we only have GSIS benefits, Your Honor.
You have what, and compared to the National Prosecution Service having what? In addition to GSIS, do they have
They have retirement packages similar to the judiciary.
similar to the judiciary? Yeah, that's what I recall. We removed that incentive to go to the judiciary by addressing the retirement, so that they do not have to leave the National Prosecution Service. So the proposal is to put the lawyers in the Ombudsman and in the COA at par with the National Prosecution Service.
Pardon, it can be higher, Your Honor.
Yeah. What about would somebody tell me here, what about the retirement pay of the Public Attorney's Office? Are they now at par with the National Prosecution Service? That's what I recall. Please, yes.
The Mosquera says yes,
Yes,
Your Honor.
Ombudsman Mosquera, is that a correct assumption that
Yes, Your Honor.
the,
There was a law passed by Congress that placed the PAO at the level of the National Prosecution
all right.
Service.
Can you draft a bill which will basically put the Ombudsman and the COA lawyers at par with the National Prosecution Service, so that the matter of the retirement pay can be addressed, and we don't want anymore to hear the reason that they transfer because of the retirement, and really because they're entitled to it. There is no difference, particularly between the prosecutors in the Ombudsman and the investigators in the Ombudsman, with that National Prosecution Service, exactly the same function, and yet, you know, one is superior to the other in terms of retirement. That is why it is natural that these lawyers would seek other offices, or transfer to other offices. Natural po yan, hindi mo maiwasan. So the solution is, you correct the inequity and at the same time correct the situation where you cannot retain lawyers. So if you can draft it, we would gladly receive it. I'm sure that we'll get the support of Senator Lacson and Senator Ligarda.
In fact, Your Honor, there's already bills pending before Senator Grace Poe and Senator Joel Villanueva.
But did you draft that? I mean, did that come from you? Huh? Okay. No, there's nothing wrong with submitting a proposed legislation to Congress. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we don't have to keep it. There's nothing against the law to submit a proposed policy to the Congress for adoption. And the policy here is to put you and the NPS, National Prosecution Service, and the judiciary on the same footing. That's the policy issue. And therefore, that it comes from you should be no secret. And that's why I'm asking you openly to submit one, because there's nothing wrong with that. So what we do probably is we will get this and we will push it. I don't know where it is in the committee. I don't know, but we'll try to trace it and see where it is. I'm sure that it is secondarily referred to the Committee on Finance because it involves budget. So we will push it if it's already there. The second issue is, do you have any problems with your fiscal autonomy? Is it being followed? Is the principle being honored by the DBM? Madam Ombudsman, just for the record.
It follows the constitutional provision that our fiscal autonomy remains independent.
As interpreted by the Supreme Court.
Yes, Your Honor.
What? You have no problem there, insofar as fiscal autonomy is concerned?
Yes, Your Honor. But we would like the honorable senators to see to it that we get a restatement of our use of savings. 5 million, nakakahiya, but still 5 million.
Can you explain that? Can you explain it a bit? You are...
no, I'm sorry. Our savings is 99 million and our income is only 5 million. That is those...
Use of income?
Yes.
Use of income?
Retention of internally generated income.
Yes. In other words, use of income for generally internally.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's only a constitutional issue. I mean, sorry. Let's say we can insert that in the General Appropriations Act.
Yes, that's what we want to use. Special provision, Your Honor.
Yeah. No, baka na-veto eh.
No, it was not vetoed. It is in the 2017 GAA, and the request of the Ombudswoman is for it to be repeated in 2018.
Yes,
but it already exists. 2016, 2017, tuloy-tuloy po. Pareho lang, exacto.
Yes,
okay,
Your
it was
Honor.
not vetoed. No.
Yes.
But has it been, is there fiscal autonomy insofar as those, the releases of those income, internally generated incomes are concerned? I said it's not much, but as a matter of principle, is it being released consistent with the principle of fiscal autonomy, or is this retained as not, is this not part of your budget?
Your Honor. We have no problem about that.
Okay. What about in COA?
The funds are automatically released, so we have no problem, although there's always the sentiment that any excess should be returned. I think we've submitted our comments on the budget reform bill because I think that's one of the items that were included there, or were not included in the budget reform bill. So we're stating this for all fiscally autonomous
I'm glad that you mentioned that because I'm also the sponsor of the Budget Reform Act, which is a draft of the DBM. May I request the COA and the Ombudsman to please submit your comments, especially because you are the agencies with fiscal autonomy, so that it's clear in the budget reform, if and when we pass it, that you retain that fiscal autonomy vested on you.
But Mr. Chairman, I heard you say that you audit anywhere from 15,000 to 18,000 agencies. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
But there are already 42,000 barangays. What happens to the rest?
These are, for the barangays, they're audited on a cyclical basis, based also on the amount of money that they hold. No?
Okay.
So, for example, the bigger barangays that sometimes have revenue bigger than municipalities. No?
Yes.
They're audited annually, but you know, you have a lot of small barangays that probably don't get more than 200,000 a year. So we look at them. We do the audit every 3 years, although they are supposed to be looked at every year. And In fact, I don't know if you have the statistics, no, but one of the things we've been looking at is yung problema po talaga sa mga barangay, especially some siguro in the provinces where the captains are not very financially literate, is yun nga yung mga disbursement vouchers, receipts, and all that, hindi natatago. At some point, they're given a stop order that they can't disburse any more funds. Yung problema naman, kawawa naman yung barangay because yung basic utilities, hindi rin mabayaran, like yung kuryente and so on. But we're working on something on that already. We've actually been lenient with some. We've found a way to address it. But we're going to come out with a policy that hopefully will address that. At the same time, we're also trying to make it easier for these smaller barangays in terms of compliance with financial requirements. Yung mga maliliit, pwedeng simple na lang. But when you have the big ones, like for example San Lorenzo or San Antonio and so on, they can afford to hire SGV to do their numbers. They can afford to hire an accountant. So sa kanila, iba yung magiging rule po. But ganun po, kaya it's anywhere from 15 to 18,000. Dahil nga there are 42,000 barangays and then you have all these other agencies. At saka the reality po is there's some barangays hindi talaga nila ma-audit because geographically they're very difficult to get to. Meron po talagang ganun.
Or they may be situated in Marawi City and they propose to audit those people. And for that matter, I'm just highlighting Marawi, but even in the past, we hear horror stories about your auditors not being able to step off the plane and audit in some of these places because it can cost them their lives to start looking into the books of municipalities. I'm not talking about barangays, municipalities and cities. And I assume that's something that beyond the budget hearing to solve, but that's the reality that we face. And but insofar as your plan to have a annual audit of barangays depending on the amount of public funds they use and just cyclical for the other smaller ones, I think is a good practice. You are not dispensing with the audit, only that you make it, you are being realistic. Otherwise, you'll be auditing yearly 42,000 barangays, and my goodness, that's something that you cannot really afford. But is there, you cannot contract out auditing services, though?
Pwede po. Pwede naman po, we can outsource. Of course, that also has budgetary implications kasi we'd have to pay them as well for that.
Of course, yeah.
We are exploring that also because one of our thrusts moving forward is really to get more into performance audit because we believe this creates a greater impact on our citizens, no? Because we get to evaluate the effectivity, efficiency, and economy of certain programs. No? The problem is we're usually too burdened with the financial and compliance audit aspects, especially since hindi pa computerized yung mga, hindi pa automated yung financial systems. So it takes some time. Now, I know DBM has certain initiatives now. They have I think a 6-year plan that hopefully will get us at least our foot in the door. But as soon as that makes it easier, it also will make it easier to outsource some of these services.
And not only that, if you're able to computerize your financial audit, then you don't have to hire that many auditors to audit the funds. So that the smallest barangay, as long as you teach them, they are trained how to utilize the electronic system, they can just make it easier, and then you audit it from head office, not going there. Is that a possible outcome?
That's the ideal part. We really love it, that kind of situation. The way we explain it, what happens is your financial audit really becomes more of a systems audit, where you do spot checking, you do sampling, but you're really looking at the system to see whether there are any flaws in it, whether it actually captures and calculates the data accordingly. But that would really be a big help once we get to that point. And I think in the foreseeable future we'll get there somehow.
We encourage you to accelerate it because I think there are enough funds in the government to be able to undertake activities and programs pursuant to good governance, which will promote good governance. So take the initiative. We're debating right now on these tax reforms, and theoretically it's supposed to generate 137 billion pesos in additional funds. So there are funds available, and these activities like putting the an automated financial system check should receive favorable support from the Senate. I would encourage you, Mr. Chairman, to do it.
We're working with DBM on this. We're in the loop. We're part of the Public Finance Management Group, including DOF, DBM, and the Bureau of Treasury. So we're working on it. At the same time, we've also started initiatives on the performance audit side. We've had the pilot program that I think they're generating the reports now, so we'll see how it went. This was sponsored by USAID, and we've received some feelers also from some of these development partners that they're willing to continue to help us develop capacity in order to do this type of work, not just for big ticket items like PPPs, but also for simple programs that have an impact on sustainable development goals.
We, for example, I'm sorry to interrupt, we expect, and it would be very helpful if we have a performance audit, not just of the National Greening Program of DNR, even the 4-piece program, the CCT. In budgeting, yan ang malalaking ticket that would help us, as Chair of Finance, to see whether we should cut, we should amend. Do you have any preliminary pilot performance audit of those two? NGP and TCT, or nothing at all, no information?
For the NGP, it wasn't part of the pilot program, but for the 4-piece, it's one of the pilot performance audits was on the 4-piece, but we have to limit it to Quezon City because, yeah, it's nationwide, but I think the initial is dahil ang lawak masyado eh. So we said,
could you lend us some info, even if it's preliminary, so that before the budget hearings we can see the results, even in one city, even it's pilot.
Can I refer to
before the hearing? Yes.
Ask him, Alex.
Your Honor, our target is to release the report by September. We already sent the draft report to DSWD for their final comment, and then we will finalize the report afterwards.
And if it's confidential, just the Finance Committee, just so
Yes.
that I have an idea of how a performance audit is. Now, my question is, between now and the next 2 weeks, is it possible to come up with a simple performance audit of the NGP of 6 years, or impossible? That's not the way it's done. Are there certain elements, imposible, hindi ganun?
Let me try to
Ang hirap mag-allocate ng pondo ng almost 7 years na kalaki-laki, hindi namin alam eh. Puro kami haka-haka, we don't know eh. Yeah. Wala kayo. Can you give me some guide? Itong tignan nyo, tignan natin kung yun ang output.
Okay. Alex?
Isasama po namin doon sa audit, portfolio po namin yan. Kasi we just, the performance audit office was just established early this month, and we are still filling up the plantilla positions.
Ito na lang po. For lay persons like us, can you just kindly submit a 1 or 2 page memo? Ano po ang basic tenets or elements of a performance audit? Yun lang po ang gagawin ko, titignan ko sa agencies na may big programs under me. Para lang may semblance of... It will not be, of course, a clear performance audit na para lang magamit ko yung mga elementong ginagamit nyo. But we will wait for the pilot of the 4-piece before the DSWD hearing on in September. Thank you.
Would the posting of infrastructure projects by the agencies, no? Because this is embodied under Section 92 of the General Provisions, under the 2018 NEP or NEP. May nakalagay doon, yung agencies concerned should post in their websites infrastructure projects, maybe referring to agencies like DPWH and the like. Would that make your life easier as COA?
Well, part of COA regulations is also for any infrastructure project to have that yung billboard, no? Yung walang mukha, no? Yung ano lang, yung details of the project.
Congressman, so
ano. But the details, for example, the contractor, the period of construction, the cost per, so on. So it's a requirement. What we're thinking of and what we have been experimenting on is making this a requirement also in digital format, meaning online, so that anyone can access it. In fact, our dream is at some point it becomes also a feedback mechanism, so that you could actually monitor projects as they're being constructed, and also people, well, you know, you can access social media if they want to comment bakit ang tagal, bakit iba na yung itsura, and so on. No? But more importantly, maganda kasi yung at least maybe on a weekly basis, you see pictures of the site. So you see kung gumagalaw siya, kung meron ng improvement.
Map-based.
Yes, ganun po. The idea is any individual from that, let's say it's being constructed in Iloilo, pwedeng, you know, someone who lives there can take a photo of the site and upload it so we can see what's going on. No? It helps not only our auditors, but I think maganda rin sa public because they can see what's happening. No?
Meron kaming ginawa nyo yung empathy noon sa PAR, if you remember, sa OPAR. And it's there, it's in the DBM, ano? Kasi they took over. That was financed by USAID and UNDP. No? Binuo namin yun, we call it empathy. No? Electronic management platform for Yolanda, something like that. So empathy. You can make it empath if you want. Para magamit, and it's very useful kasi map-based GPS, it's open to the public, but the updating is only limited to the agencies concerned kasi may password. But yung public, walang password, it's open. So anybody can just take a picture of the ongoing project, at kung walang project, malalaman na ghost. So it's there, it's with the DBM now.
In fact, si Commissioner Fabio here experimented once with one of our provincial satellite offices. Gumawa siya ng Facebook page. So ngayon, nagpo-post yung mga tao dun sa province, pictures of the site as it was being built. So you could see the progression on week by week basis, no?
You can introduce the general provision to adopt what you did in the OPAR for DOTR and DPWH. I don't think it would entail so much funds. It's just a matter of using whatever's available na social media platform, whether Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Ganun lang yun eh. Lahat naman ginagamit yan sa private niya. Lahat may Facebook eh. Ba't hindi gamitin sa proyekto? So if you can help us...
As a matter of fact, Madam Chairperson, yung ARM, meron silang expanded ARM road mapping and management system or e-ARM system. So nawala na yung ghost. Ang problema yung quality of their projects. Doon naman sila tumitira. So at least, yung COA, kalahati ng problema nyo, medyo nasolve kasi walang ghost eh. Dahil talagang map-based eh. It can easily be seen in the website kung merong project intended for a certain locality that is not being implemented. But pag nakita mo naman yung mga projects, yung semento or asfalto, lumalabas graba. So, anyway.
So do I hear you, Senator Lacson, introducing that provision, what you did in OPAR and what Confabia is doing as a pilot in a provincial satellite office to be adopted in those that need it most, especially DPWH and DOTR and DA.
Yes, Madam, I will just introduce an amendment of Section 92 under the general provisions.
Actually, we have that already. It's just...
Kaya lang, ang covered lang, infrastructure projects. We can cover, expand it to cover all projects being implemented by all the agencies. Yeah.
And right now, the reports are so slow that would actually help us because the reports are only given quarterly, and there's a 45-day extension after the 1 quarter. So I still don't have the June 30 reports for all agencies. But if that is done and it's digitally available, it's so easy. Then everybody will just be on their toes since it's a 12-month deadline also for the budget. And for DepEd, that will be so helpful. So that people who line up and ask, itong aming classroom, hindi pa ginagawa. Let's say, VP Lenny was here, and she was mentioning about Agutaya in Palawan, where they asked for, I'm not recall, I can't recall what it was, to make a BIFAR project or a classroom in DepEd from how many months or years ago, even before time, tas hindi pa raw nagawa. To make a long story short, tinawagan namin, it's in the pipeline na daw. Pag digitally available yung information, hindi na kailangan tatawag, haharap kung kailan makakausap yung chairman, doon lang tatawag ng opisina. That's DepEd and BIFAR under DA as well. So I would adopt that for the whole government so that it's digitally available when applicable, especially for DOTR, DPWH, DA, including DNR. So that's easier, it makes the work easier for all of us in this room.
Sa Ombudsman, would you consider having your own law enforcement arm? Because as of now, I would like to think that you're hampered by, you know, some may handicap kayo, you cannot apply for a search warrant, you cannot build up cases on the law enforcement aspect, and so forth and so on. So maybe it's about time that we introduced an amendment in the Ombudsman law. Wala, prosecutorial eh. But if you have your own, maski parang mini task force within the Ombudsman, that has the law enforcement capability, maybe you can function more efficiently, no?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, that has been brewing in the office, and I recall the Omuscara was coming up with some legislative proposals to that effect, because especially given that when we want to entrap someone, we always engage the assistance of the NBI. Or the police, yes, but we rely more on the NBI.
Mga matok.
We are insulated from Tokhang, that we assure you, Your Honor.
Wait the legislative proposal, and I'm willing to author it.
We'll do that.
Since we proceeded from the COA budget and then Ombudsman budget, I would there's no need for a presentation of their budget, no? Nabasa na natin. Just one last question to the COA. In terms of the GOCCs, I will not name the government institution and the GOCC, but sakop pa niyo ito. I think your answer would be in the positive, but what do we do? G2G contracts, government institution to be serviced by a GOCC, but if the service provided is so highly costed and rated, and the quality is not the same, and they shut off the private sector from the bidding because it's a G2G negotiated contract, what do we do?
Well, it's still subject to audit, so...
Yes, I'll just let you know what I'm referring to.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Sige po.
yes. So, all GOCCs, of course, are subject to audit,
Yes.
and it does not mean just because it's government to government that the private sector must be shut out. In short, even it's a government institution being serviced by a GOCC when the private sector can actually come in and service it and do better service at lower cost.
Yes.
But because, so we are providing the annual funds under GAA to the government agency to procure whatever service a GOCC is providing. But the GOCC is providing very high costs when the private sector is shut out because it's a G2G contract. So hindi po dapat negotiated ang contract just because government to government.
Well, pwede kasi talaga yung through government, but it's still subject to audit. Even the contract itself has to be submitted within 5 days to the resident auditor for review, not only legal but also in terms of the commercial terms. becomes tricky sometimes because it's a G2G, but sometimes the servicing government entity actually bids it out also to the private sector.
Minsan sinasubcon din nila sa
Yes.
private sector.
Opo.
However, the rates are so high that it's disadvantageous to the government institution who is clueless.
Yeah.
They don't know, but the budget comes from us, so we see it's so blatant. The costs are so high, and we know the costs outside. It's not like that, but they're just clueless. I'd like to think that they're just being clueless. I don't like to impute any other motives.
Well, as the chairman said, even if it's a G2G contract, it is subject to audit, and if the cost of the services is way above what can be provided by the private sector for the same service, certainly that G2G contract can be disapproved by COA, and there will be problems because then the two government agencies will be in trouble. So it is not without a remedy. That's what the chairman is saying. They can audit it
Under what circumstance can it be a negotiated contract without bidding and shutting off the private sector from any information or access to bidding?
Well, normally if it's, again, government to government, the theory being that, well, it's just from one pocket to the other, so there shouldn't be a problem. But you could have, in that situation, problems also, especially if it's outsourced by the servicing government agency or GOCC. So that if the price is, perhaps quite high, then you know that who's really benefiting from that is probably the private entity that's
Assuming it's not outsourced and it's being implemented by the GOCC, but it's still very high. That's still wrong because there's a private sector available, many,
Yes.
which are much lower.
Yes, the cost would also be consideration there. Normally, it's not too much of a problem if it's lower cost, because anyway, it's government to government. So that sometimes for example, the Sandigan Bayan rents space from us for 1 peso a year. So, anyway, it's government, well, we just didn't donate the property, but it's effectively theirs, no? So, not so much issue. But if, say, we were to charge them 2 times the market rate, then that would be something that would be questionable. Why are you charging them 2 times the market rate? And why would they locate there if they can get cheaper alternatives or less expensive alternatives?
The COA and the Ombudsman budget are approved, and we will see you in plenary. Ano hiningi natin na input? We requested the pilot for the performance audit for peace, and just the basic performance audit 101 for my education, just a one-pager so that I can look at the NGP and other big-ticket programs under my watch. Thank you. And we approved the 130 million annex building in Quezon City and the 50 million ESAL-N program of the Ombudsman, pending their letter with justification and the request of COA. Even if I don't say it, they will write anyway a request letter. I do not promise anything but best effort. Thank you.